What is the best investment that you can make at the start of a refit project? Well, if you've read the title of this video, you're probably going to go, decent tools for the job, right? Yeah, well, yes and no. I, like probably most of you, live in the real world where we all have budget constraints on what we can spend on tools and equipment, and there are definitely some tools that are definitely 100% worth spending a decent amount of money on to have the best possible tool for the job. But in other areas, actually, you can save a bit of money and maybe go for a slightly cheaper option, which will be perfectly adequate for most people's use. If you're planning a big refit job, you might want to stay tuned to see the rest of this video as I run through some of the tools that I use, probably the tools that I use most commonly, and where I think it's worth spending some money, where I think it's worth saving some money, and also I'm going to go through a few ideas of some cheaper tools that you might even want to put on your Christmas list for Santa. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to run through what I think are the top buys based on my experience. So these are tools that I have bought with my own money. None of this is sponsored. These are tools that rattle around in the back of my van, get dropped off ladders occasionally, and have been used and abused over a number of years. It's worth staying tuned right to the end of this video because I'm going to save the very best and most useful tool I have in my van till last. So do keep watching for that. Like I said at the start, some of these tools are more expensive. They are probably worth the investment because they are things you're going to use a lot. Other things you can definitely go a bit cheaper on, and there's lots of little sundry items which are useful things to have in terms of PPE and measuring and other things that you're definitely going to want to have in your toolbox. My name's George Istid. This is Refit and Sale. I run a small business called the Solent Boat Butler Limited, which is based in the central south of the UK. So I spend my days fixing, repairing and refitting sailing yachts mostly. A lot of those are Contessa 32s. If you've seen the channel, you'll see I've featured a lot of Contessas, but I do work on other boats as well. It just seems to be the case that I've fallen into that niche because I know them very, very well. This channel's all about refitting and repairing boats, and occasionally I get to go out sailing on them as well, including my own boats. So if that's the sort of thing you are interested, then please just take a second to press that subscribe button and give me a like if you've enjoyed this video. It really does help me, it helps the channel, and it costs you nothing. It might even burn a couple of calories, which we all need before we start munching into all those mince pies at Christmas. Now, when people ask me what I do sometimes jokingly say I'm a professional sander, so you can probably guess where I'm going with the first tool that I'm going to suggest you look at, and it's this chap here. So this is my Merca Deros, I think you pronounce it. I think it's a 5650 model. I have had this for, well, it's probably got a date on it actually. This was manufactured in 2019, so I've had this 4 years now, coming into its 5th year. It has been off for repair a couple of times for various minor issues, but despite that, I still think this is my favourite sander. I've got lots and lots of different sanders, as you can probably imagine, but this is the best one I've got. Why is it my favourite one? It's really nice to use. It's not particularly heavy. You can hold it like this, you can hold it upside down, right way up. It's powerful. It's got it's a 5.0, so it's got a 5mm orbit as it's going around. It removes material very, very fast. It's got a nice speed controller on here. You switch it on and you press the buttons here. If you've seen my channel, you will have seen me using this a lot. And this is, to be honest with you, one of those tools where, yes, it is expensive. This thing is, I've got it written down here, this thing is about £500 to buy now, but combined with this kind of mesh sanding discs, this one is a Merca sanding disc, but lots of other manufacturers make sanding discs made out of this mesh stuff, and a vacuum extraction on there, it really does help with controlling dust when you're working in a confined area and sucks it all up the vacuum cleaner. So this is probably, well, this is my favourite sander of all the sanders that I have. It has had a tremendous amount of abuse and use over the last few years, and generally speaking, it's been pretty reliable. The head on this is currently got a 125mm sanding back plate on this. That can very easily be swapped for a 150, so you can use 150 or 125 sanding disc depending on your preference. Most of the time I do use the 125 because it's easier to get into corners and things like that, but if you're doing a really big area, then I'll swap it out for the 150 and use that instead. So top tip, if you're interested in buying one of these, there is a link down in the description. This is a top piece of kit. So going back to that joke earlier, I said I am a professional sander. We're going to move straight on to item number 2, which is, guess what, another sander. Now this is a belt sander. These belts are about 30mm wide. I think they are the length they are. I couldn't tell you exactly. This is the Multitool 9031, and this is a fantastic tool as well, just because I use it all the time. This radius here is really nice for being able to kind of get into corners and what have you, but because it's quite a wide belt, it does remove material very, very fast. I generally use 60 or 80 grit belts on these things. If you are buying one of these, again, link in the description, it's worth buying a whole bunch of belts as well, because if you're grinding a lot of polyester, you will get through them, because polyester does kill the belts quite rapidly. So it's worth having lots of them, but it also removes material very, very quickly. So it's a real good time saver for getting into corners. You can use it kind of on the side if you want to kind of grind away very close to a flat surface like that, or if you're trying to lay up some glass and you've put something in to kind of make a radius, this round bit here makes a perfect radius. You can buzz that along the material that you have put in between a hole and a bulkhead, for example, and clean it all up. Give this a buzz over, give it a wipe over, and then you can lay up glass. It works really, really well. So there is a handle attachment that goes on here, which sometimes I remove because sometimes it gets in the way. I do sometimes use it upside down. It's also got this flat plate bit on the bottom here, so if I want to sand something that's flattish, I can sort of touch it down and sand off material and keep it semi-flat. It's never going to be as flat as using a proper sander like my Merca or a longboard or something like that, but for quick removal of material, if you want a guide of something flat, that does work reasonably well as well. The only issue that I've had with this is this back wheel here seems to wear on the edge, but you can get replacement ones of those. They're about £30. This whole sander is about £250, so it's not a cheap belt sander, but it is a very good belt sander. And unlike some of my other tools, this has been used and abused. It's been covered in polyester dust, and it hasn't killed the motor. Now, I will come on to angle grinders in a minute and other equipment. Sometimes these machines do really, really suffer. Polyester dust is horrible stuff. It seems to get into the motors and stick to the motors and really causes lots of problems. However, I've never had an issue with the motor on this thing. For whatever reason, it just seems to keep on plugging. So, top tool, Merca 9031, link in the description if you're interested in buying one. Right, now we've done one belt sander, we've done one normal sander, and the last sander I'm going to show you now, tool number 3, is a slightly cheaper version of what I've just shown you. This thing here, this is actually a brand new one. This is the Black & Decker Power File, but it is just another belt sander, and it has these very small, narrow belts. So I bought one of these before I bought the Multitool, which has the wider belt on it, and I used and abused it for years and years and years, and it has finally succumbed. The little bearing in the end here has kind of reached the end of its life, so I've gone out and bought myself a brand new one. As I said, it's called a power file. It's not called a belt sander for some reason, but I still call it a mini belt sander. Really handy for getting into nooks and crannies and corners. You can just very delicately buzz out just a small amount of material using one of these things. It's also really good if you've got, say, a few small blisters in your hull or something like that. You can go in and just buzz around and just remove a small amount of material, and then you can effect a repair. So it's a really nice, controllable, easy way to remove material, but it's also handy for getting, as I say, into little nooks and crannies. These are pretty cheap. I think this is about £50, £60. Again, link in the description. I find them really, really useful. I probably don't use this as much as I used to because I've got the slightly bigger Multitool, but if you don't want to spend that amount of money, if you don't want to spend £250+ on the wide one, although Multitool do a narrow one like this as well, but I think it's still moderately expensive. This thing, for 50 quid, really, really useful tool. Right, I think that is enough of sanding. As I said, I've got a massive collection of sanders. At last count, I think I've got 9 or 10 different electrical sanders. But before we move on to some more electrical tools, there are some small items which are definitely worth you buying, and they're not terribly expensive. And the first one, and I hate to be very boring, safety goggles. These are cheap and cheerful. These ones are from DeWalt, but to be honest with you, I don't care what brand they are. I will buy 5 of these at a go, and they basically have, I always have one on the dashboard of my van, normally have one in my tool bag. I normally try and keep one on the boat I'm working on. They do get scratched. They do then need to be thrown out. They get covered in paint, because I sometimes wear them if I'm rolling on paint, just so the splatter doesn't go into my eyes. They're just worth buying, you know, £5 for a pair. Go and buy a few pairs. Always have them available, and then you've got no excuse not to use them. Having bits of metal or GRP or wood or dust or paint in your eye is not particularly pleasant. So for the sake of a few quid, go and get a few pairs and just leave them lying around. You will use them then. Related to that is ear protection. Now you can go super cheap and just get some over the ear muffs or some in-ear earplugs, but my preferred ear protection solution, I hate that word, solution. My best preferred device for keeping my ears safe when I remember to use it are these things. So this is a set of earplugs. These are made by Isotunes. They have squishy ends that I can put in my ear. I can connect it to my phone, and then I can listen to music all day. So whilst I'm doing a load of sanding, or if I'm doing a load of polishing, I don't really want the polisher whining away constantly in my ear, because it does affect your hearing. And unfortunately, I do have a slight loss of hearing because I've been around so many power tools all my life. But I do my very best now to remember to put this over my head, plug these in, put some tunes on, and then my ears are both protected and I get something nice to listen to as well. So link in the description for these. I can't remember how much these are. I don't think they're terribly expensive, but your partner will thank you for not losing your hearing, because as much as us men do sometimes have selective hearing when it comes to, you know, doing certain chores, it's selective. If you permanently lose your hearing, it's not a lot of fun. Before we move on, I'd just like to say a quick thank you to a chap called David, who sent me some very nice shortbread biscuits. He knows that I drink a lot of tea. I obviously mention tea quite a lot in my videos. Yes, I do function on tea and coffee, and those biscuits were very welcome. Thank you very much. If you want to thank me for the videos that I produce, I do put a link down to a PayPal account in the description where you can buy me a beer or 2 or 3, or buy me a coffee. And that money, as well as getting spent on beer, does get spent on lights. There's a light right next to me there, so you can see me properly, microphones and all the other equipment that I use for making these videos. Those that do support the show, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Next up, I wanted to talk about my hand drill, but as you can see, I don't have it. I'm going to have to pretend I have a drill here. But I have had for the last, well, as long as I've been running the business, I've been using DeWalt cordless drills. There's no particular reason why I went down that route. I just ended up buying one. I found it was really good when that finally died, because guess what? They get a lot of use. I bought another one, and that's been really good as well. Now, I'll put a picture of my drill in here so you can see which one I've got. But to be honest with you, for around 120 to 160 pounds, you are going to get a pretty good long-lasting drill. But the key thing for me is that having bought that drill, I then invested in other items that all use the same batteries. So I've also got an angle drill like this, which uses the same DeWalt batteries. And guess what else I've got? I've also got this chap here, which uses the same battery. So what I've also got from DeWalt is one of their cordless angle grinders, which I use all the time for chopping down bolts, using a slitting disc in it, or doing a little bit of grinding or whatever. I do have a corded angle grinder as well, so if I'm doing a big job where I know I'm going to be getting through the batteries, I'll plug in and I'll use that. But 9 times out of 10, I reach for the cordless one. So the main thing is, I'm not saying go out and buy DeWalt. I find them pretty good. I'm being very happy with them. But what you want to do is think about standardizing on a particular set of batteries. So you can go out and just go and buy what they call the body of a tool. So it comes without a battery. That makes it a little bit cheaper, because there's no point in buying lots of drills, because when you buy one with a battery, generally they give you quite a small battery, so you're better off just buying the body of a tool. Go out and buy the largest batteries that your particular brand manufactures, and then if you've got 3-4 of these, then you know you're always going to have enough power for your tools. The last thing I have from DeWalt, again on the same battery, so I have one of their radios. This is absolutely covered in paint. It's been used and abused. It just works. It plugs in with mains, also runs off the battery, and I'm going to put a link to all these things down in the description. They are really, really good. I've not been let down by any of them, and when I've had to replace them, it's because I've just worn them out. And you've got to remember that I put a lot more use probably into my tools than the average DIYer, and they get left out in the rain, they get wet, they get dropped, they get generally used and abused. So DeWalt, top marks, not sponsored by you, but I do really, generally speaking, enjoy all your tools. Next up, we are going to look at measuring. So one of the most useful tools that I have, and I use it all the time, is a digital caliper like this for measuring things accurately. So if you're taking a cutlass bearing out, you want to be able to measure the size of the prop shaft. You need to know whether it's 1 inch or 25mm or 1.25" or 35mm or whatever it is. And one of these is your friend. You can buy fairly inexpensive ones of these for, you know, 10-15 pounds off of eBay, Amazon, wherever. So this particular one is made by Moore and Wright. It's a slightly more expensive digicaliper. I think this is about 50 or 60 pounds. This is the one that I keep in my workshop. I do have a cheaper one as well that rattles around in my van, but this thing's fantastic. It's actually better than the cheaper one, and I'll tell you why. The cheap one, whenever you open it like this, it switches itself on. So you have to remember to lock it closed. But even then, if you drop your bag and it jolts it slightly, it switches itself on, and then the batteries run out. So it does switch itself off, I think, after a while, but if it's constantly moving around, this thing comes on and off all the time. So this thing, you actually have to physically switch it on and it works, switch it off again. And it's really, really good. It is, when you're buying one of these, worth also buying a whole bunch of batteries. So these normally use those, I think they're 2032s or 3032 batteries. It's worth checking. It's worth buying a strip of 5 of those, and then you've always got some when your battery runs out, just when you're about to go do a job. Guess how I know that? Because it's really annoying when it happens to me regularly. So really worth buying a digicaliper for accurate and quick measuring of things that you need to buy, replace, or whatever. Now, having said I've standardised on DeWalt for my cordless tools, that isn't actually 100% true, because there is one other tool, well technically 2 other tools that are from a different manufacturer, and I thought I'd show you those now. I don't use this thing quite so much as the best tool that I have, which is coming up at the end of the video, but I thought it was worth showing you. It's down here. It is from Bosch, and sometimes when you need to drill in a little corner or screwdriver, this little thing is really, really handy. So it is a drill and a screwdriver. I do use it for both. Sometimes if you're doing a job, it's really handy having one size drill or the countersink bit in your small cordless, and then use your main cordless drill for doing the main bit of drilling. That can be a bit of a time saver because it saves swapping bits out. But what's really nice with this thing is I can take that head off and I can put a screwdriver attachment in, which is quite handy. But the most useful thing is that it comes with other devices that allow you to do things like put this on, which means that you can drill or drive really, really close up against a surface. So if you imagine you've got a bulkhead here, I can come in and drill or drive a screwdriver in really, really close. Secondly, and perhaps more usefully, is the right angle attachment. So I can attach this, if I can get it on, click that on, and then I can attach my drill to that. If it will go on, there we go. And I can then turn this around like that, have it facing you, have it pointing down. And when you're working in tight spaces, the number of times that this has saved my bacon or saved me a lot of swearing, because you're trying to fit something inside a locker, through a letterbox. This thing is Doesn't get a lot of use, but when you need it, it really is worth having. So the batteries for this also fit, and I only bought it because I wanted commonality on the batteries. It also fits my Dremel, which is not a Dremel. So that goes in there, and away we go. And some dust has just flown out of this. Now, just so you know that I'm not an absolute Bosch fanboy, this is the one tool that has been ever so slightly disappointing, but I'm not sure whether I can blame Bosch for it or not. The motor has become increasingly noisy. Now, all electric motors seem to hate getting polyester dust in them, so I will get through at least one vacuum cleaner a year because the dust seems to kill the motor. It's the same with my corded Matika angle grinder, which I haven't shown you, but if I'm doing a lot of grinding inside a boat, I'll put a flap disc on my Matika angle grinder and use that. But again, the dust just seems to kill the motor, and I think it's the same with this. This has become quite noisy. However, it has been really useful. But if you're going to buy one of these, of whatever brand, and I do find this one quite nice because it has a little light in the end there, so if I put it on, it's got quite a bright light, so if you're working in a tight corner, it shows you exactly what you're doing. But the most useful thing you can buy for these are these little grinding attachments that are on the end here. So I've got a selection of these. They are super cheap. I get them from Amazon, and they come in a selection of different sizes. I'm going to try and hold that up to the light so you can see in the camera. And you can also get these for drills. They're called little die grinder bits, I think, but they're really, really useful. They are much more useful than those little drum sanders or the little cutters and what have you. 9 times out of 10, if I'm doing some grinding with my little Dremel, which isn't a Dremel, it's a Bosch, 9 times out of 10, I'm using one of these little grinding attachments, these little die grinder heads for removing material. They are super quick, and they are also designed for metal, so you can use them for polyester, which they will remove material very, very fast, or stainless steel, brass, anything, it will go through it. So well worth a buy. I'll put a link to one of these, and I will definitely put a link to these in the description. These are not particularly expensive. I can't remember off the top of my head how much it was for a set. I'm going to say 10, 15 pounds. Really, really, really useful, worth buying, and having as a little Christmas present to yourself. Have them in your tool bag, because the number of times these things have made a job quick and easy over trying to open up a hole somewhere. They're really worth having. I have saved the very, very best for last. So the last and the most undisputed useful tool that I use every single day, and I can genuinely say I have used and abused this thing for years, is my Bosch oscillating multi-tool. This is a GOP 250 CE Professional. I bought this before I started the business. It got used and abused then with personal projects, and I have used it, I'm not going to say every day, but it does seem to come out the box most days and get used, whether it's used for 30 seconds or 3 hours. This thing just keeps on going, and it is really, really useful. So talking about oscillating tools in general, they're really useful because you can change different heads, different cutting heads on this. So this currently has a wood cutting blade on it. You can twist that blade round so it can be at 90 degrees, it can be pointing straight up, pointing straight down, so you can get it into all the little nooks and crannies. So you can plunge cut with it. You can do really, really accurate cuts if you're trying to cut out a square or a rectangle or some other random shape for fitting something on your boat. These are perfect. So this has quite a short blade for cutting wood. You can also get kind of almost circular ones like this with a segment missing. These come in different styles, so you can get these for cutting wood, you can get these for cutting metal, you can even get these with hardened teeth, so you can cut stainless steel with them. What else have I got in my, I've got a box of bits here, basically, box of different heads. This thing is a grinding attachment. I don't know if I hold that up closely, you'll be able to see. Really, really good. I think this is actually designed for removing grout around tiles, but it's also fantastic if you're just having to do a little grinding job on some polyester before doing a bit of laminating and repairing. So I've got 2 different styles of these grinders. I've got this one, and I have got, if I can find it, this triangular one, which I now won't be able to get out. Let's just pull them all out. Let's just pull them all out. So I've got this one as well, which is the same material as a grinding medium. Sorry, the light is shining on it very well, but you can see that's good for getting into corners. I've got another one for grinding. It's this shape. It's got the same really rough material on it. And then I've got a really teeny tiny kind of baby one as well for getting into corners, which I also use. So that's the grinding. For cutting, this is a metal cutting blade with a fine tooth on it, but it's quite long. So that's kind of handy. I use that or that for cutting large areas. If you want to cut a long straightish line with one of these, you can use a guide with it. So sometimes, if you've seen my videos, you may have seen me do this. I use a long aluminium angle piece of metal or some other guide, which I'll clamp down to the piece of wood or laminate or whatever it is I'm cutting, and then you can run your oscillating saw blade along the side of that aluminium angle, and that gives you a pretty accurate straight cut. It's not fast, but accurate, and it's super convenient having this. You can obviously turn the blade to get into corners. What else have I got here? I had to remove all the Treadmaster off my Westerly deck. I've got a Sealord 39. It was covered in really, really ugly old Treadmaster, which is a non-slip cork-based coating, which frankly I hate. I think it's ugly, but mine was absolutely shagged. So it all needed to come off. All done with the oscillating tool. I put a scraper head on it. In fact, I've got 2 or 3 because I wore them out, and use these, and it kind of just shaved it off. It just used to cut through the glue layer between the Treadmaster and the deck. It largely left the deck undamaged, apart from where I accidentally digged it in just in a couple of places, but fantastic for removing Treadmaster, so well worth buying. So I use this thing every day. Cuts wood, cuts plastic, cuts metal, it scrapes, it grinds, it does everything, and it just hasn't broken. This thing must have hours and hours in use on it. So top marks to Bosch for making what I think is the best oscillating tool you can buy on the market. There's a link in the description. I don't know if they still make this exact model. I've got a feeling they do a 2 different versions of this now, a slightly cheaper one at around 150 and a slightly more expensive one at around 250. But if you are going to buy one tool to treat yourself this Christmas, go and buy yourself one of these Bosch Multitools. They are simply fantastic, and well, it's probably going to break now, but this thing hasn't let me down, and I've put hours and hours and hours of use and abuse. It's been dropped, it's got wet, it's just been, well, it's been used in a professional environment and a personal environment, and it just keeps going. So top marks to Bosch, that is well worth buying. On the subject of the cutting blades that you buy for your oscillating tool, I have bought Bosch ones, and I've bought non-branded other ones from hardware stores and bits and pieces, and I've got to be honest, the cheap ones are cheap and okay, but it is actually worth, I think, buying the Bosch ones. I don't know why, but they just seem to last a little bit longer. It's heat that tends to kill them, so if you're cutting something you can see you're getting a lot of heat build up, that is what tends to blunt the blades. So just back off, cut another area, come back to that area that was getting hot. Normally things are getting hot because your blade is starting to get blunt, but as soon as it gets hot it gets blunter very much quicker. But in my experience, as I said, it is worth buying the Bosch cutting blades as well. Sorry, the light's shining on that, but these are really, really good and worth the slight extra expense. Not sponsored by Bosch, but just overwhelmingly pleased with this tool. Well, there we go, folks. Those are probably the most useful and most commonly used tools that I have. They're obviously not all my tools, but that should give you a flavour of the sort of things you might want to be looking at for the refit projects that you are undertaking. As I said, there will be some links in the description. You can take those. They are affiliate links. They don't cost you any more money, but if you click on them, it means I earn a few little pennies from Amazon as a thank you because you've ended up looking at or buying products which I have recommended. If you want to support the show, as I said, there is a link in the description to a PayPal account. If you want to donate, buy me a coffee or a beer, it's really appreciated. Those that donate, thank you very, very much. I will try and get 1 or 2 more videos out between now and Christmas. I appreciate I haven't had one out for a while, but I'll do my best to try and get a couple more videos out in the lead up to Christmas. But if I don't, I wish you a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you have fun times in the boatyard over the winter, getting your boat ready to splash in the spring. See you soon. Bye for now.